No, my goodness me.
Oh, God, what the heck? What's going on? What happened?
Did I miss something?
Nothing at all. You must be Phil Dave. I've heard so much about you.
Who are you?
None of it. I don't know.
Do you know, I once did that. I must tell you, oh my goodness me. This reminds me of one of the most appalling moments.
We haven't welcomed everybody to the Midday Show.
You can welcome them if you want, but honestly,
all right. You are very welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Russ Kane. He
not so
Phil
sure.
Dave.
Yeah.
Right. What's your fabulous anecdote? I'm agog.
Well, let me just start by saying I didn't mean to be rude, okay?
Oh, God.
But
I love it. Any story that starts with, I didn't mean to be rude, but
yeah, okay. So, no, here's what happened.
Yep.
The days when I used to work at this nice little community radio station in the middle of Plottsville, right? It was a long time ago.
I remember.
And part and parcel of the show was that myself and co-presenter would very flatteringly be asked to local events. And it was very silly because, of course, it sort of obviously gave you this false sense of being little local celebrity when, of course, nobody had ever heard of you. And which is fine. I'm used to that. It's a look I'm very familiar with when people say, "Who are you?" But but what happened is that this chap, it was at a theatre in this area.
Right.
And this chap came up to me during the interval. And he said, I recognize that voice. Said, you're Phil Dave from the afternoon show. And I said, I am. And you are? And I didn't mean it to come out like that.
Oh, God.
Okay? I really didn't mean it to come out like that. That's unbearable enough in itself.
Yeah, it kind of is, yes.
But then when you learn that person happened to be the chairman of said radio station.
Oh!
When you happen to learn that chairman of said radio station was John McDonnell MP.
Oh, it's getting better, but keep going.
I basically sounded like such a complete pillock, as if, who are you having the nerve to speak to me?
Yeah.
And I didn't mean it to come out like that.
Too late.
At all.
Too late, my young
humbly
colleague.
apologized.
Yeah.
And I said that don't worry, I am familiar with the expression P45. And I also said that I humbly apologize for coming across as so rude. I didn't mean to. It was a case of I was exceptionally tired and I might have had one or two glasses of free wine. But even so. So it was the most disgustingly pathetic attempt at groveling you ever saw in your life.
Yeah,
and
I'm
delighted to report that I did retain the program. I don't know how, but I did. And it just reminded me for that one moment, and it scarred me for life, truly, because I could never imagine behaving in such a way normally. That doesn't come naturally to me at all.
Well, it does.
I've genuinely never forgiven myself for doing that, for saying that. Because even though I know it's really silly, that's just not my style to be.
No, it isn't. But interesting that MP or whether John McDonnell is still living free of rent inside your head all this time later.
I don't deny that of all the people I've worried about offending, I probably shouldn't be too worried about offending, because not least of all because I don't work at that place anymore. But at the same time, I just think two wrongs don't make a right. I might not necessarily agree too much with his politics and his views on certain situations, but at the very least, I would like to think that it's a sign of actually sort of showing there is some decency within to be able to recognize when something has gone that wrong and potentially blame it on the booze, as Chrissy Richards has done. Stay off the booze, Phil.
And she knows, she lives in Spain. Right, this one is great. It's from Julie Voice, formerly of Houston, Texas, now of Guildford. Sorry, twinned, obviously. Hi, chap. I know where I'd rather be as well. Tell you something in a sec. Hi, chaps. I used the London Underground last night, and there were not only other people. What? But lots of them? No. Who knew? Not what I was expecting.
Don't they know who you are, Julie?
That is a cheek. Outrageous. This is a running gag because I get on carriages, sometimes which are rammed. I got somebody's, armpit.
I know this is going to sound absolutely terrible, but could you fly solo just for the moment? Some people never leave me alone.
It's Rue on the phone. It's Rue. Go ahead. Right. So it's a running gag that I get onto carriages, and there's just me. which means, of course, I have the opportunity, one, to sing show tunes for the sheer hell of it. Who doesn't want to, right? And two, I take a picture and people don't believe it's true. They keep, it's AI. It's not AI. I don't even know how to use AI, for God's sake. Aren't they a breakdown service if your car goes wrong? The AI. If you come from Birmingham, I just thought of that gag. It's quite good, isn't it, really? What have we got here? I hope this isn't too rude.
Russell, this is going to sound ridiculous, but you
Gotta
need
go.
to give me 5 minutes. I'll be
Bye.
back. So sorry. Sorry.
Bye-bye. This is like being on Radio 4. Nothing like it, right? Grandpack, many years ago, I used to work in M&S in Brent Cross. One day, a bloke parked his rolls in the loading bay and tried to come in. I said, "Who are you?" It was only one of the Seif family and an M&S director. Oh dear. When you said interesting reading between the lines, I used to work in M&S. Was that up till the moment when you pissed off one of the directors of M&S? Probably. So, are you still no, I can say he's not. I can answer on behalf of Phil. Phil used to make bread every Friday. He doesn't because he's so busy. He's got a big boy pants job. Big boy job. Right. I love the fact that you were in M&S in Brent Cross. It's worth going to M&S. No, it's worth going to Brent Cross just to see the arguments in the car park because they're all mental. They're all mad. People start screaming at each other. They don't know how to drive. They're all screaming at each other. It's fantastic. Who cares? Now, are you following what's going on in America? Holy God. What a cluster, you know what. It's a global embarrassment. It's a global embarrassment. Put politics to one side. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, I know we're not, because we're British, right? And if you're watching in the States, hello and good luck. But it's a global embarrassment. Unbelievable. I have never seen anything so horrendous since my mum. Now, I don't say that. Oh, hang on. Let's go back to M&S, Brent Cross, because that's how my mind works. It was during my university days. He was okay with it that I challenged him. And he said, I was doing my job properly. You crawler, Grandpack. Very good. Do you know that I was walking my dog and a car pulled up and says, "Are you Russ?" And I went, "Yes." Thinking, please God, I don't owe this bloke money. It was Grandpack. Complete stranger. I've never met him before. He recognised my dog. The other day I was walking the dog. Total stranger. I don't know who the hell she is. Charming woman, but I'd never met her. Goes, "Oh, you must be Ebony." And I'm standing there like a, spare slice of bread. I'm going, "What? Sorry, what?" "Hello, Ebony. Lovely to see you." Ebony is better known than I am. And that's not hard these days. Anyhow, let's get back to America, right? It couldn't be, if I wrote the worst horrible farce, the cruelest satire, even I couldn't write this. Yesterday, when they'd been going on and on and on, he's going to have but think about this, unravel this for a sec, right? A big boy press conference. He's not bloody 6 years old. Big boy press conference. He's the president of one of the most powerful military nations in the world. He's not 6 years old getting a prize for drawing a nice picture of a cow. Big boy press conference is what they called it. How demeaning. How demoralizing. How repulsive. Anyway, I'll come back to his gaffe. Well, I'm not going to call them gaffes. I don't like the word gaffes. Gaffes makes it sound, oh, it's quite funny. This isn't funny. This is a tragedy of Shakespearean dimensions brought about by greed, money-grabbing, power-hungry felons. That's what they are. They're just awful, awful, awful. So the big boy press conference that was much touted by that idiot that he has as the press secretary, the one who fields the questions. And I wouldn't ask her to slice bread. Oh, Jesus Christ, she's an idiot. Anyway, I mean, she's just stupid. Sorry, just is. She's not up to the job. But at the moment, no one would be up to the job. It's impossible. So the big boy press conference, he's so senile. He shows everybody, they're meant to be open questions. That's what a press conference is. The president answers open questions. What he doesn't do is have all his mates tucked away. Well, he wouldn't do it. His 8 million staff members do it. And prepare the questions and prepare the answers. You couldn't even get that right. Then there was the NATO fiasco yesterday. I couldn't, when I told some friends, they thought I was joking. He introduces Zelensky as President Putin. Zelensky is standing 1 foot away from him. He goes, and he introduces him as President Putin. Jesus. God damn. The camera pans across, shows the people of NATO, they're like, it's over. It's over. Somebody get this guy away.
Oh, charmed, I'm sure.
What?
You said somebody get this guy away.
I'm talking about somebody, well, he's not as smart as you and not as debonair as you, but why am I talking about Biden, for God's sake? I'm talking about Biden.
No, I gathered. I do realize.
Graham Pack says, I can't see the Democrats dishing Biden for Kamala Harris. She's an absolute moron. As Americans are pretty misogynistic, true. And I can't see the vote. Have you seen? I've been looking at the back.
Can I just say, I know that. I'm sure you've probably already said this, but I'm so sorry if I'm repeating. But there is, in all seriousness, as much as everyone sort of goes on quite rightly about the threat that we're posing by having someone so clearly unstable in the White House. At the very least, what I would like to think on a human level we look at here is a man who is very clearly entering the realms of senility.
Of course.
And his family are clearly standing by and allowing his senility to be all right, fine. So encouraging his senility to be presented on a world stage where, so never mind what you might think about representing America. I mean, I don't think it's much of a representation for America at all, but the fact that you are allowing this chap who clearly is about to face some very tough years, medically speaking, just being used in this way for nothing but the power. And I think it's vomit worthy.
Well, there's a lot more to unpack here. Number one, and I've been saying this, I know you've missed it, I've been saying it on the other shows. On a human level, put politics to one side. If that was your father or grandfather, you would take away the car keys, let alone the keys to the nuclear arsenal. I know he has to go through a whole protocol. I understand that. There isn't a big red button on his desk. We're not stupid. But on a human level, you wouldn't do this to your family. And as I've also
said, at least I hope you wouldn't.
As I've also said, Dr. Jill Biden, as she shoves down everyone's throat every 5 minutes, is a doctor of education. She's not a doctor, probably off the back of a cornflakes packet. Doctor, and I go, well, Joseph Mengele was a doctor. I don't want him looking after me either, thank you. It's a disgrace. Putting him through that. It's an absolute disgrace on a human level. Putting that to one side, politically, they're dead.
But you know, but imagine, right? Just imagine someone watching. Just say to yourself, what if it was, say, your grandfather or something like that? How would you feel about watching that?
They don't care.
Yeah, and there's not actually really sort of the, how can I put it? There's not the, what's what I'm looking for here? There's no escaping it. Do you know what I mean? There's no escaping. It's going to be tough enough as it is to go through.
There's so much more. One, the gig is up. The gig is up. It's over. Two, they have lied and lied and lied. When George Clooney, a man I can't bear, especially because of his wife and what she's trying to do, which is disgusting, but we can talk about that. You're a much bigger expert on that than I am, right? When George Clooney, 3 weeks ago, hosts a big fundraiser, and they raised tens of millions of dollars for this buffoon, tens of millions of dollars. And then he suddenly says, oh, he's not well. What? You didn't know that 3 weeks ago? I watched my mother go through it for 16 years. What do you think? You don't spot these things? He's senile. And you only worked that out 3 weeks ago. You're lying, George. And the Democratic Party are lying. They've been lying to the American people for years. They all knew this and thought they could bluff their way through. Well, the gig is up. They can't bluff it through anymore. He can't string a sentence together. He's actually talking. I don't mean political nonsense. We're all used to that. He's talking literally gibberish. Gibberish. He calls his vice president yesterday Vice President Trump.
Worse than that at NATO summit when he was introducing Vladimir Zelensky.
I just covered that. And he calls Zelensky President Putin. Jesus, I'd let my dog do a press conference rather. It's shocking.
It's really on, like I said, on a human level, even if you put politics to one side, what the hell is the matter with that family that they can see so clearly there is something desperately wrong with someone they supposedly love, and they're putting them through that.
And crackhead Biden's son, the crackhead, right? The laptop guy, Hunter, of course, he's in the White House. Guy should have been in jail. Never mind about the White House. And he's advising. Holy moly. The reason they're circling the wagons is because Hunter needs to be protected. Because it's a whole pack of cards waiting to fall down. They said that the laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop, was Russian disinformation. It wasn't. Total lie. It was his laptop. Total lie. And they ran with that lie for years. And they have to circle the wagons, as I said. They've got to protect this guy because it all comes apart. It all becomes unthreaded. Because it's been a complete pack of lies since day one. Shocking. Shocking.
You also have to question as well just what kind of threat that poses. Look at what has happened to the world since Biden took office.
Yes.
Right?
They're laughing.
You look at the way that Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yep.
You look at the way that Hamas invaded Israel.
Yep.
You look at the way that China is ramping up. North Korea is ramping up.
Sure.
All of these different countries.
They smell blood in the water.
That basically know that Biden poses no threat to them whatsoever, and they can do whatever the hell they want. I could almost guarantee that regardless if you love or loathe Donald Trump, if he was in office, you don't really think the world would be in the state it's in now, because they know that he is unstable enough to press the red button if he has to, and they wouldn't trust him to do that.
What's the first thing that Trump did last time? I'll tell you the first thing he did. In Afghanistan, when he knew there were a load of Taliban, he ordered for the first and only time the deployment of what's called the Moab, which is colloquially known as the mother of all bombs. It stands for Mass Ordnance Airburst Bomb or something, but it's mass ordnance, but it's known as the mother of all bombs. It is so huge, it can't be dropped. It's loaded off a transporter plane. It's gigantic. And they dropped it on the cave system. And that was the warning within the first week, within the first few days. Mess with us and you got trouble. Mess with us at your peril. This guy can't even find his way on and off a stage. Putin laughing in his face. China laughing in their face. You know, the world has looked for so long to America. For so long. Oh, yeah. What? And they got number 2. They're going to parachute in Kamala Harris. God almighty. How many levels of stupid do you have to deal with? And I'm not sitting here as a huge Trump fan. I'm just saying, God, this is was the most powerful. China is. They can't have that sobriquet anymore. They're not the most powerful nation in the world. China's the most powerful nation in the world. Get over it. The world's changed.
Ruthie says maybe Trump
Which
is organizing to keep Biden there, which will enhance his chances of re-election. You know how cynical I am. Ruthie, I don't think, for what it's worth,
no,
that there's any... I don't think that he has any control of
he has
keeping
no
Biden
say
in the
in
race.
that whatsoever.
But I do believe that he probably thinks it's in his best interest for Biden to stay, because you're right, it will boost his chances.
Look, Trump, have you noticed how quiet he's been? And the reason he's been so quiet, he didn't have to do anything in that debate. That debate was the end. If they vote for Biden after that, heaven help them, they had their chance. But Trump doesn't have to do anything. He's just letting them destroy themselves.
Sound
And
familiar?
it's their fault because they should remove this man. He's not well. It is unfair. It is elder abuse. Well, as Graham Pack says, and if you just saw this is quite true. The guy has trouble doing up his shirt buttons. He's got a finger on the nuclear button. Well, he hasn't. Look, let's be honest. Obama's still running the show. This is Obama's third term. It's all Obama's people behind the scenes. Obama has not left. And here's a question for you, Phil, which I don't understand. In British politics, you vote for the politician. That's the end of it. You don't know who the hell they're married to. It's irrelevant. You vote for the man or woman who's the MP. Am I right? That's it.
That
right?
is supposed to be the idea, yes.
Well, that's what happens, right? Who the bloody hell voted for Jill Biden? She's his wife. She has no status other than happening to be married to the president. And
you're right, but at the same time,
she's flying around doing big addresses and flying around to meetings like she's the big cheese. She's not.
Well, you know that they obviously do sort of make quite a fuss of the first lady of America. So I do realise that there's a bit more of a to-do made about whoever is the wife of the president.
You didn't
say they would be here.
You didn't see it with Melania. You didn't see.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm fairly sure
Reagan.
Michelle Obama gave it a damn good try.
Oh, Michael. Yeah, I'm sorry, Michelle. Did I say Michael? I don't know why I said that. Michelle, not Michael. Obama. Yeah, because they're now saying, oh, why should she run? Because she happens to be having married to a former president. What's her
political? The same with Hillary Clinton, really.
Jesus. Enough. By the way, if Phil and I
remember him running.
if Phil and I are found hanging from a tree, shot 17 times in the back, and Hillary tells you we committed suicide, we didn't. Just putting it out there. Hillary Clinton. God almighty.
But I suppose, you know what, you could look at, there's another example of that happening a little closer to home. So look at what happened with Boris Johnson. He married Carrie whilst in office.
Carrie Antoinette.
As soon as he married her, she became the boss. She started dishing out all of these ridiculous things that she was hoping for the net zero policy, which is why basically Boris Johnson pushed for it so much and ultimately made it happen. It's outrageous behavior. Absolutely terrible. As you say, you vote. Well, in this country, you vote for a party, you vote for an MP. But still.
Yeah, she should have Carrie Johnson should have shut the hell up. No one voted for her and no one gives a good goddamn what she thinks. Didn't vote for you. You don't have a say. Don't care. You're just a citizen like me, Phil, everybody watching the show. That's it. Graham Pack. Oh, yeah.
Believes Michelle Obama has more backbone than Barack.
Yeah, something like
maybe
like
you could call her his Barack bone. Oh.
Very, very good. Very, very good. I have been saying for years, and I know Phil, I think, goes along with some of this, but I never put words in Phil's mouth. I wouldn't do that. And it's this. This isn't an accident. This is not just serendipity. You've never seen the world more divided and arguing over things which are inalienable facts. There's a man, there's a woman. You can dress it up any way you like. It's kind of it.
Quite literally.
Yeah, well, there you go. Right. That's number one. The Black Lives Matter movement, I'm not going to get into it. All I'm going to say is I think it set race relations back deliberately 20, 30 years, probably 30 years.
Couldn't agree more.
the anti-Semitism, the burning of the churches throughout France, 300 so far. I don't know if you saw yet. Remember, Notre Dame burnt because it was an acetylene torch. And now the magnificent cathedral in Lyon, yesterday, same thing.
Spire went up.
Amazing. Who would have thought? Plus 300, but it doesn't make the news. Why is it up to me on this tiny little show? It doesn't really make the news. It's extraordinary.
There's very little doubt in my
France.
mind. There's very little doubt in my mind that there is this concerted effort to systematically dismantle the Christian values
Of course, yes.
of the Western world.
That's what's happened.
Because
it's a direct attack.
Because once that happens, and once the Christian values that the Western world is founded on are as good as shot, guess what happens? There's room for something else.
We know there's something else. Why are the press so scared to call out what it is? Why? Why are the media so terrified?
Because unfortunately, we have been told in no uncertain terms, we've had it drummed into us, that unfortunately, by tarnishing communities with the same brush, that makes you a terrible human being. And I think there's something very different, when you're actually turning around, and let me be very clear, racism to me is so unbelievably unpalatable. I can't understand why anyone would think, I don't like someone because you are this or you are that. I don't get that at all, because everyone's an individual. People are free to follow to some degree what they want, live their life how they want to, and certainly are in this country, in the Western world, and how much longer that lasts, who knows. But unfortunately, when that then gives scope for a rebel faction, and it is a rebel faction, let's be very clear, right? There are people within the Islamic world. If you look at the developed Islamic nations, such as the UAE, Bahrain, and all of these countries that have signed Abrahamic Accords because all they want is peace. They love their religion, they love their fundamental beliefs, and they just want peace. They want to live side by side. Why do you think it is that countries such as Egypt have kept the Rafah crossing closed? Is because they don't want to run the risk of anyone who's in the Gaza Strip who has been bred to be a terrorist, right? And that's the truth of it. Sorry, bred to be terrorists. They don't want to risk any of them getting into their country and infiltrating it and ruining it.
Have you seen the size of that wall?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen photos of the wall that Egypt put out and have erected to keep the Gazans out, take a look. Because if you think the pathetic wall on the southern border keeping the fentanyl mule drug handlers out of the US is big, it's peanuts. It's like a picket fence compared. This wall is gigantic. They're taking no chances.
The next country, by the way, the next country that is going to go exactly the same way, it may not be now, but it may be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time, will be South Africa. Because what it is if you have a look, it's all of the countries that the Iranian regime are systematically investing their money into.
Yep.
Right? They're systematically infiltrating it with money. They're picking on the poorest of countries, and they are basically taking charge of them. And they've most recently done that with South Africa. So South Africa's ANC, the African National Congress, which was the largest governing party, it was the party of Nelson Mandela, who himself was convicted on terrorism charges, but no one dares says that either. But when you've got the ANC,
well, it's true, it was.
Which is, I mean, it's true. I mean, people can dig and go nuts when they say, but it is true. Now, some might say rightly or wrongly, but I don't care. I believe rightly. But if you have a look at what happened in South Africa, right? As soon as Nelson Mandela took charge and the ANC took charge of that country, it has gone from, and let me be very, very clear, right? State this for the record. Apartheid never should have happened. Don't support it. Hate it. Disgusting.
It was disgusting.
But, and this is a big but, you cannot use that as an excuse to give someone carte blanche to destroy a country. And that is exactly what ANC have done. They have taken a once strong, stable country that was a beautiful place to live and sent it to the dogs. It is a slum. in so many parts now. And I talk from experience. I have been there and seen it with my own eyes. My family have had to flee from that country because they were scared for their lives. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. And I know the way that people sort of turn around, they say, you can't possibly dig South Africa. Look at how they've picked themselves up. They've ended apartheid. They've now got African people of African heritage running the country again. Isn't it wonderful? Yes, it's wonderful that there's no more apartheid, but everything else is dire.
Everything's gone to shit. Why don't we just do a summary? It's all turned to shit. And that's what
the job prosperity there is zero. And if you want any reassurance,
violence is off the scale.
Absolutely off the scale. There's no consequences. There's no law and order, which is what terrifies me about this country. When we see people behaving how they want and the police doing nothing about it, we are going the same way as South Africa, I'm telling you. Get a grip, right? Well, this is what is happening right before our eyes. We are letting lawlessness take charge. It is horrendous. But if you even put that to one side for a split second, right? If this doesn't reassure you what has gone on in South Africa and how terrible it was, my family left in the early 1970s. So yes, very much still when apartheid was a thing. But even so, it was all disintegrating. Rightly so. But there was still the rise of the ANC and they could see the direction of travel. And people were rebelling. Understandably so. Of course you're going to rebel. If you're being told that you're suppressed because of the color of your skin, of course you're going to rebel. However, the prospects of that country, the rand, the currency of South Africa, for every pound was 3 rand. Something like that. Now, for every pound, 25, 26 rand.
Good grief.
The value of the rand is beyond worthless. It's absolutely worthless. And then to top it all off, now what they've done is because they know so many people are fleeing and so many high earners are fleeing South Africa, they say if you're over a certain income and you have a certain amount of accumulated wealth, if you try and leave South Africa, you are taxed to, I think, way over 50%, to the point where your assets are seized and everything because they're trying to stop that money leaving the country. This is how corrupt they are and how horrendous it has become there.
They are totally corrupt. And the fact that they were so busy with the Gaza situation, why? Because they're pumped up and bankrolled by Iran. They're the only people putting any money in there. You've got to look at the bigger picture.
If the Iranian regime is not crushed anytime soon, this world is doomed. I'm not trying to scaremonger.
Well,
I'm not trying. No. Seriously, because they are the ones who hold power.
Let me tell you what I think. Let's just get Paul. Paul, I'm not going to put the whole thing up about the dogs because it's a diversion and it's too sad. But I'm very sorry, but I just don't want to put it up there. I totally agree with you, Phil. You know what I faced earlier in the week near Euston? Unbelievable. Phil, oh, well, Paul, he wrote to you? Did Paul write
can I just quickly say what Paul said? Because otherwise there's not going to be much context here.
Go on.
So Paul was saying that he was meeting a friend in Whetstone Barnet area and he sort of took the journey on the bus, like he usually does. Then he was in Shaftesbury Avenue, tried to get there from Euston, but he couldn't, basically because in a side street near Bedford Square, he came face to face with literally hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters gathering ahead of some sort of march. They were completely blocking the road and the pavements. And Paul politely asked whether or not he and a wheelchair user he was with could be excused. And it was met with really the most awful response, as if he'd basically asked them to kill themselves. And he tried to pass them. And just relentless backlash from them, just trying to go about their business because they weren't interested in what they were doing, what they were protesting about. It was obviously he was trying to get on with his everyday life and they were trying to disrupt it. As a result of it, he was saying that when he was in that area, the police were absolutely nowhere to be seen. Useless. And they let them do what they wanted to do.
Of course they do.
And Paul actually sort of also messaged to say, that he rightly believes in free speech. And I think we can all, I hope, agree with that. But at the same time, there's a difference between free speech and having the freedom to cause major disruption to others. And there is one hell of a difference there. And this is what we see week in, week out with all these blooming idiots who are protesting, supposedly in the name of the people of Gaza. But it is a guise. Wake up, you fools, for crying out loud. This is nothing short of a total facade to use it to rally against Jewish people. And I can't believe how dumb people have to be to not realize that. I don't deny there are some people who are good intentioned, who are a bit thick, who go on those marches because they are genuinely concerned about the people who are actually innocent in Gaza. But wake up, those marches are nothing to do with them. They are a hate march through and through. And if you're too stupid to realize it, I'm afraid you will deserve what's coming to us. They're going to come for everyone. Those kind of fundamentalists do not see anyone else's right to exist, regardless if they're Jewish, Christian, Hindu, whoever. They don't care.
Doesn't matter.
This is not Islam. This is fundamentalism, and there's one hell of a difference. It is not people who follow Islam in a peaceful and coherent and cohabitant way. That's very, very different here. We're talking about the fundamental arm of that religion that has been allowed to grow exponentially. It's basically like looking at the IRA and saying, do whatever you want to do.
But at least with the IRA, you knew who the chain of command was. That was the difference. The other difference with the IRA and these maniacs is this. At the height of what is politely called the Troubles, like you got a twinge in your knee or something, no. But it was called the Troubles, as you know. The IRA itself probably was about 200 people, absolutely controlling everything, about 200. And the British authorities could at least speak to the leaders and have a dialogue, which was eventually how peace, such as it is, was reached. Right? The other thing about the IRA, they were not stupid at all. They did not want to die. So whatever they were going to do, they had a plan to escape. Right? These maniacs want to die. They love death.
Well, I think
they understand is death.
But they are prepared to die, I think, rather than want to.
Well, no, some of them want to. I mean, and some of them, they're totally prepared. And there's no one to talk to.
This is why this has been allowed to fester, is because people aren't prepared to call out the difference, right? There is a very great difference between people who follow Islamic faith from progressive countries such as, like I said, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, all of these countries that actually want to follow Islam in a peaceful way and actually live side by side with all of their brothers and sisters, whoever it may be, whatever religion. There is such a difference between that and this is where I think we go wrong, is because we try and tarnish everyone with the same brush. People are scared to speak out. These people, to me, are not Muslim. Let me be really clear, right? I don't think they follow Islam at all. They do it in the name of, because they can use that as a facade to hide behind to carry out whatever they want to do. If you're talking about fundamentalists, right, who do not believe that anyone else has the right to exist, who do not believe, first and foremost, Jewish people don't have the right to exist above everyone else, and they want to see them wiped off. They don't think Israel has the right to exist, right? All of these different factions that make up their nutty, revolting, disgusting, prehistoric regime, until people are prepared to call it out for what it is and to destroy it at the core, which is Iran, ultimately, the Iranian regime. People are very quick to go around chanting out free Palestine. Palestine never existed.
Free Iran.
Free Palestine never existed.
Iran from the maniacs.
No, it's worse. Free Persia. If you look at how Persia was as a country compared to when the Iranian regime took over, they are not only poles apart, they're worlds apart.
Of course they are.
Persia was actually a developing and beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what people don't seem to remember and understand. I don't understand it. They remember back 70 odd years ago when Israel was reborn, but yet they don't realize when Persia was abolished and Iran came along, that's when a lot of the trouble started.
When you're a fanatic, it really doesn't matter. Truth is dead. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go further. I believe, and I haven't said this publicly, but this is what I believe. World War III started on October 7th. Now, before you say, well, that's just ridiculous.
I don't think it is.
I don't think World War III is hydrogen and thermonuclear bombs dropping on Moscow and New York and Washington and, God forbid, London. I don't think that's World War III at all. Because the people you're dealing with, yes, even Putin, don't want their countries obliterated. No one in their right mind wants their country obliterated. No one wants nuclear winter and all the horrors of nuclear war. All right? Do you think that the whole uprising just happened overnight? Do you really think that amount of organization across campuses, across all the major cities, just happened by chance? Of course it didn't. This has been planned for years. Years. How many sleeper cells do you think there are? People used to go on about, the Russians with the Russian sleeper cells, because it makes great fiction. You know, suddenly you say a code word and a perfectly nice guy becomes a brilliant assassin. Yeah, it's great. It's fiction. I write fiction, I know. This isn't fiction. The British authorities in this tiny little island have just upped their watch list from 43,000 to well over 60,000 people. I think it's nearly over 70,000 people on a watch list of people that the authorities are highly suspicious of. It's over 70,000 people. They have no idea where they are. They don't know how to keep track of them. There's about 3.5 policemen left. There's
I laugh out of nerves, it's true.
There's two-tier policing. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? How did
and we
all
have
the
no
students,
army, virtually no army.
No, because, and this is what I'm saying. This goes way back. How do you destroy the West? You make the West destroy itself. They do the job for you. They do the job for you. I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. Putin, Z, and the rest of them are sitting there going, we never thought it would be this easy, guys. This is incredible. They're ripping themselves apart.
Because we're more worried about misgendering someone.
They can't. Why? Yeah, look. While people are going crazy and threatening to kill other people over pronouns, what do you think China has done? What do you think they've done?
They've been making the pronoun badges.
They've been making they've taken over huge swathes of Africa. Why? Because that's where the lithium mines are. Why do you need all that stuff? Because that's what powers your phone. That's what powers this, the electric cars. Who owns it? China does. They built an 8-lane superhighway. Did that make the papers? No. Too worried about a pronoun. It's nonsense. It's the magician's trick. It's called hang on a second. It's called misdirection. Look over here, and the real stuff's going over there. That's what it's been achieved. And it's brilliant. They've done a brilliant job.
But what is so horrendous about all of this is that you're talking about the smallest section of society. I'm sorry, I know you hate the S word. But
no, you are. Of course you are.
The smallest faction of people that you are saying, potentially, we've got to all change our thinking. We've all got to be distracted and look the other way and think about, now have I called this person by the right pronoun? Have I said the right thing? Have I said anything to offend? I don't care.
I don't care.
I'm sorry. I do not care about this minute, tiny section of society, because most people out of London, I promise you, don't think like that. But there is, for whatever ridiculous reason, this joined up thinking, except it's not so joined up because it's looking the other way, joined up thinking across the Western world as we rip ourselves apart over whether or not we got the right sign on a toilet door. Yeah. Meanwhile, the true powerhouses of the globe are just boldly carrying on, doing whatever the hell they want to do. And they're doing it in front of us. They're not even subtle about it.
No,
But
they're
we're
going, what?
not thinking.
And when you've got somebody like Biden in charge, they're going, oh, what you going to do about it? What are you going to do? You can't even find your way to the lectern and off the stage. What are you going to do about it? Answer, nothing. They're completely, not just emboldened, they're in charge. It's over. It's over. So let's just continue to join the dots here.
Hopefully now you're feeling fabulous.
But we're not allowed to have this conversation anywhere else.
Oh, there are some places you are. But yeah.
They are, but then everyone starts screaming and shouting and carrying on. Nature abhors a vacuum. I do believe there's two-tier policing when it comes to these marches and other things like that. Not when it comes to investigating murder. Of course not. Of course not. Right?
But I don't think that there's two-tier policing because they're treating people deliberately differently. I think they're scared. I think it boils down to being terrified of doing anything.
I think you've got the combination of one, they're scared to do it. And I wouldn't do it. I'm not brave enough. I'm being perfectly honest. Of course not. And I didn't sign up to be a policeman. I think you got Mayor Khan, who in London is a disaster, and how he got in with, what is it, 30% of the vote? Was that it? Did he get 30%?
I can't remember, to
If
be
he's
honest.
lucky,
It seems
yeah,
so long ago now, doesn't it?
Something pathetically low. And you got the bloke at the top of the police force answering to Khan. So it's a whole mess. Nature abhors a vacuum. What we do not want is vigilante gangs sorting this out. You don't want that. But if control isn't taken, that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. And the next step from that is civil war. Now, I think that will happen in America far sooner than it will happen here.
Agreed.
And as I keep saying, thank God we're not armed in the United Kingdom. Thank heavens we're not armed. We might tut very loudly and throw a McVitie's chocolate hobnob at each other. That's about it. And then we go home, have a nice cup of tea, go, that revolution, what's on television? Oh, countdown, that's all right. We'll be fine. America is armed to the teeth. And if I lived in America, first thing I'd do, I'd get a gun. Wouldn't hesitate. Wouldn't hesitate. Wouldn't hesitate. I'd get one as soon as I could. And within a year, I would apply for a concealed license to carry. I would. Why would I do that? A very unpopular view. I'll tell you why. Because if there was an amnesty or the law, and they said, right, you've got to hand in your guns, and everybody did it, it would be marvelous. It would also be marvelous if there was no world poverty and no cancer. But life isn't like that, is it? But if they did that, and all the law-abiding citizens like me, Phil, my family in America, handed in all their weapons, great. Who would be left with all the guns? People who don't acknowledge the law. So that's why if I'm going to go down, I'll go down fighting if I lived there. And the worst thing is, whatever happens in November, and Phil, you must have been discussing this in your big grown-up proper job, whoever loses will not accept that decision. That is a guarantee. They will claim it's fake. They will claim that it was problems at the counting, the votes, and all hell will break loose. Over here, where we've had a seismic shift, this is the difference. This is why Britain is still a beautiful country. Everybody went to their local little place. We did our vote with our stubby little pencil.
Well, not everyone, but yeah.
All right. Well, those who cared. And we took a vote. And we abide by the majority decision. We had a fair, proper election. And everyone did that. The world changed, and we went home and had a cup of tea and went, okay, well, let's give these guys a chance. Because that's the proper way to do it. That's the grown-up way to do it. That's how democracy works. What we didn't all do is say, it was a fix, and get our AK-47s and Rugers and Smith
no
and
one said it
Wessons.
was a fix, but there are an awful lot of people who do question whether or not the electoral system is representative of
Oh,
the
that's a
country.
whole different
And
ball
I
of
mean,
wax.
that's definitely another discussion.
That's a different ball of wax and first past the post. And yeah,
for what it's worth, I
proportional
actually do believe in
representation.
I do believe in first past the post personally.
Hmm.
The reason for it is it's a tried and tested method that has lasted for centuries, and it would be, I think, very wrong to think that the grass is greener on the other side, because many other countries do have the proportional representation system, and they're forever trying to scramble just to get a government together, let alone actually get anything done. So I don't think it's a case of sort of saying, oh, well, look, we need to try this, it'd be better for us. It won't.
I don't think you want to start messing around with it personally. But Graham Pack says we've got 2 women inequality ministers, one of which still doesn't know what a woman is. I know. Bullshit, right? And it's not too tricky. This is from Paul. Do you want to read this out?
Paul says the police did turn up. They blocked the road between Euston and Russell Square and stopped the buses leaving Euston bus station, thus causing huge disruption and allowing the protesters to march along a traffic-free road.
Why?
They apparently didn't even tell TfL that they were blocking the roads, so the buses queued up as far as the eye could see.
And if you don't know what TfL is, because I know a lot of you are watching from France, you're watching from Spain, you're watching from America, TfL stands for Transport for London. So a little bit of background there. It is a very worrying time. Now, I have friends who say to me, you're in a constant kind of rage about this. Yeah. It's made you very
anyone
depressed.
would think is almost something worth getting enraged about.
Well, that's kind of where I'm, yes. And it makes you very depressed. Yes, it has made me very depressed. It's made me very upset, very angry, very hurt, very worried, very concerned. Now, they say, well, I don't read any of that social media stuff, and I try not to watch the news, and I feel much better. And I go, well, they were probably thinking like that in the 1930s in Berlin. It'll all be fine. Be okay. I'm talking generally about everything, nothing just specific. I think people, will, and eventually it'll get, well, there's a civil war. Yeah, but it's not in our town. Oh, it's in our town. Yeah, but it's not in our street. Well, it's Mrs. Dawkins up the road at number 32. Well, it hasn't come to us, and we're number 88. We'll be all right. I mean, you do keep thinking that. It won't be me. So, we've got a choice. Maybe I shouldn't read all this stuff, but I can't help it. We live in the real world. This is what's going on. And you can choose to just stick your head in the sand, or you can choose to, I don't know. What do we got? This is from Graham Pack. Would you care? Would you be so bold?
I shall be so bold. Graham Pack says, if Trump wins, then the Democrats will write op-eds, opinion editorials, in the New York Times and go on the late night shows crying. If Biden wins, then all hell could break loose with Republican supporters.
There was a weird thing I saw on the news, right? You know what a U-Haul truck is? It's a removal truck, basically. It's a huge company called U-Haul, which, interestingly, so many people are leaving California under Gavin Newsom, you can't even find a U-Haul to hire at one point. This is true. So many people have seen that he's destroyed California, especially LA, San Francisco, turned them into shitholes, that places that I love, right? Remember, my kid lives in America, so I have a real vested interest. My kid and the family live out there now. And my daughter actually is American as well, by birth. So many people thought, I can't live like this. I'm going to go to another state where they haven't gone raving mad. So they've hired so many U-Haul trucks. This week, a little convoy of U-Haul trucks pulled up, back doors flipped up, and out got all these uniformed guys, armed to the teeth, all wearing the same kind of uniform. No one knows who they are. No one knows who there are. There were loads of them. First of all, it's illegal to transport people in a U-Haul truck. You can't do that. They've got to be in the seat and seat belts. You can transport cargo. You can't transport people. And just hundreds of them got out, all masked, all wearing fatigues. No one knows who they are. Who the hell were these people? Don't you think that's a little disturbing?
outrageously disturbing.
And every
little bit
and of
disturbing.
course every side said, "Oh, they're Trump supporters, they're MAGA supporters," and other people go, "No, they're not. They're not. These are probably federal agents masquerading as who the hell knows." No one knew. You had hundreds of people, fully armed, all uniformed, getting out of U-Haul pickup truck, U-Haul removal trucks. No one knew who they were. Unbelievable.
You know, another example of how those with an agenda twist stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see that there's this news that Delta Airline, which is this big
American
airline,
the
pin
yeah,
badges.
the pins.
So
yeah.
he says wearing a pin, but Delta Airlines
pin is all I care about. My little schnauzer, my little baby.
Delta Airlines have said that all flight attendants will only be allowed to wear the American flag as a pin.
Yeah.
No other country.
Quite right. That is also the law, by the way, as well.
But too flipping right. Sorry. I mean, it just
It's
happens
the
I
law.
work in a job where I am allowed to wear this. But if I was told for work I wasn't allowed to wear it, guess what? I wouldn't wear it.
Yeah, that's right.
And
or work somewhere else or quit. It's your choice.
And people don't seem to understand. Obviously, they're now. There was one sort of thing I saw on Twitter recently where it was sort of saying, "Oh, do you see what kind of power Zionists have over this world? It's disgusting. They're now people are losing their jobs. Blah blah blah." First and foremost, no one's lost their job. They were just told they're not allowed to wear them anymore. Secondly, a job. If you don't comply with company policy, guess what? You lose your job. It's not rocket science. Thirdly, if you actually imagine from the other side here, right? How would someone feel? Let's just say if they came from a heritage that the Nazis openly declare they hated. I'm not just talking about Jewish people. There were all sorts. People
they hated gays, gypsies,
people
intellectuals. Anyway,
well,
they hated
people,
blacks.
People of color, right?
They hated black
people who are
yeah.
gay, as you say.
Yes.
People who are from
hated homosexuals. Of course, they did. They did.
All of these different groups that the Nazis hated, and they wanted to try and create an Aryan race. How would you feel being stuck on an aircraft when someone who is there to help you is wearing a pin of a flag that bitterly offends you and actually deeply concerns you? How would you feel? Right? It's very different with something, for example, like this. If you don't like tuning in to someone like me who openly wears a flag that's got the Union flag and the Israeli flag on it, you turn off. That's what you do. You can escape.
And if you don't like mini schnauzers, you like Dachshunds or poodles or something. Well, okay.
You get the choice to turn off. But when you're on an aircraft and you are stuck in that environment where you can't leave and you're forever wondering if you were to ask the air steward for help, what would they do?
You?
Would they help?
And
would they maybe spit in your drink?
Here's something, if at the least, right? Here's something, Phil. Remind me, because I can't remember. Who did all the hijacking? I can't remember. Who was responsible that we all have to behave like complete twats when we go to an airport because security takes so long? Who was responsible that you can't take any liquids on, like hand gel?
Oh, yeah.
Remind me who that was.
Fundamentalists. There you go.
Was it the Italians? No. Oh, thank God, Paul Claridge likes mini schnauzers. Well, we haven't solved the world's problems, but we have shone a light on stuff that people are just not allowed, permitted, feel free enough to say. And some of the stuff you'll agree with, and some of the stuff you'll disagree with. But we can still at this stage say, you know what? We'll agree to disagree, shake hands, go and have a cup of coffee or a drink. That's what grown-up people do. What we don't do is say, I disagree with you, and therefore I'm going to chop your head off.
It is so unbelievably important to stay alert and to realize this is not about scaremongering. This is nothing to do with conspiracy, because believe me, if it was a conspiracy theory, it would be something far wackier than what is actually happening before you. The information is out there, I promise you, and this is not from crackpot websites. Just simply ask people who are on the ground. You look at websites of the newspapers that are in those countries, right? You've got, so for example, in South Africa, plenty of publications there talk about the bankruptcy of the ANC. If you have a look at what's going on in Israel, plenty of journalists there. The difference is it's not making it to the global stage, which is why people probably in this country and America and others are not as familiar with it, because they're not probably paying as much attention. This is a bigger picture. It's a very worrying picture, but for what it's worth, I wholeheartedly believe if the world wakes up sooner rather than later, it is not too late to stop it. I genuinely believe that.
Do you?
Yes.
You do?
Wholeheartedly. Yes. Because above everything else, you look at it like this. All of these fundamentalists have got nothing compared to what we've got. We've got something worth fighting for. And that's the
beautifully
countries
said.
we love.
I can't top that. I can't top that. That's a beautiful thing to end on. Phil Dave, you're a genius. Thank you, everybody.
Been called worse.
Thank you, everybody, on behalf of myself, Ebony, and Phil, on behalf of Neil Long and the gang, and Liz Saul, and everybody else.
Neil's not done anything today.
Not today, he hasn't, but he does on a Monday and a Wednesday.
I know he does.
When he's awake. When he's awake. Monday. When he's busy. And I'll be back on Monday. Phil, have a great week. Everybody have a lovely, lovely weekend. I'm going to do my best. Until we meet again, try and stay out of trouble. Bye now.
Bye.